All right, guys, we're bringing you a very special episode of Karen's Calendar today, a completely hip-hop show. We're going to talk all about the Hip Hop Museum launch party that's going down January 18th, and I have two very special guests with me. I've got the CEO and founder of Listen Vision Recording Studios, Mr. Jeremy, and member of the group that's celebrating their 40th anniversary come 2019, an OG original member, hip-hop pioneer, Master G from the famous Sugar Hill Gang. Guys, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So let's kind of get into, first of all, this event and what's going on with that. Jeremy, can you kind of give us an intro of who you are and your role with the event and the Hip Hop Museum itself?
Yeah, sure. So this is what happens when your midlife crisis takes a positive new direction. For 22 years, I've owned DC's largest and oldest recording studio, Listen Vision, and we have a radio station that is now the largest in America. It's an internet radio station, and we just started to feel stagnant, and we thought, what better way to commemorate the genre of music that's responsible for me not being dead or in jail than to collect, a collection that's now the world's largest memorabilia collection in hip-hop. And we put this together starting about 2 years ago. And it started to burst at the seams at our studios. And we tried to figure out what are we going to do with this? And so we created a partnership with this amazing location called Culture House in Southwest Washington, D.C., which is like an 18th century church covered in fluorescent graffiti. Seemed to be a perfect location. And shout out Steve Tanner and Ian Callender over there, who felt that Listen Vision and the Hip Hop Museum were a good fit. And we, starting January 18th, will be embarking on a 3-year residency with the Hip Hop Museum and Listen Vision's broadcast studios over at that facility.
And we've seen, a lot of people, I'm sure, have seen all the hype about this Hip Hop Museum launch party that's going down. And, you're going to have musical guests, and we're going to get a little bit more into that. But people might not know that the Hip Hop Museum actually already is something that's kind of going on, and you guys have a lot of content already, and you have a lot of artifacts. Tell me a little bit about the original culmination kind of how you got all of that stuff together.
Oh, this is a great story I love to tell. So a friend of mine had a store in Union Station, and I went to support her store. Shout out Michelle Noodles Smith. When I went there, I bought lots of different stuff, but one of the things I bought was this little $12 Biggie doll, Biggie Smalls, and that doll sat on my desk for 3 to 6 months, and I decided Biggie needed a friend. So I went online to find little Tupac, and lo and behold, little Biggie, $12 Biggie, was worth $1,000.
Wow.
And I thought, what on earth? And it sent me into a spiral. I'm serious. And the spiral was actually just to discover what memorabilia exists on the internet. And sadly, I discovered there actually wasn't that much. And I had done well in the cryptocurrency domain, and I think it was time to get out.
Yes.
I cashed.
Good move.
Good move. I cashed it all out, almost all of it, and invested into these physical assets. And we almost literally bought the internet out. So bought every single piece of hip-hop memorabilia in history that exists, from auctions and eBay and donations, and started a show where every single Friday at 5, Master G's one of them, we nominate and induct a different hip-hop legend into the museum. And so through their donations and all the insanity that we've collected, we have begun to now burst at the seams.
Wow. And we're not only celebrating the moving of the Hip Hop Museum itself, but we're also going to be celebrating the 40th anniversary of Sugar Hill Gang Rapper's Delight. Master G.
Yes.
40 years in the game.
40 years.
Tell me about it.
And strong. And going on.
We were saying you're super fit before you got in the room, and that we're jealous of your physical stature.
Yeah, hey. It's got to all coincide. You know what I mean?
You can't make it 40 years without being great.
Right. You
in
gotta
great
have
shape.
a look. You gotta have a look. You know, you gotta be fit. You know, that's my thing. You know,
It's true.
Hey, I'm a walking billboard.
There you go. so can you kind of give us like a a little bit? Yeah, let's get real serious
here.
Okay.
Give us maybe a shortened version of the legacy of Sugar Hill Gang and kind of what y'all have, you obviously yourself have been up to since then, because a lot of people don't know the entire story behind this.
Yes. So, of course, the long and short of it is, before us, there was Street. That was it. You know, we are the first commercially successful rap group in the entire world, first platinum sellers, first television appearances, European tours. We're the template for hip hop, basically, if you really want to get down to it. And in that first 5-year span, we, opened doors, concerts with R&B artists, negotiated that. We went through the ups and downs, and we have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of the business on all levels. Through the mid 80s and 90s, I actually kind of had to regroup. So I went off into business myself, and like Jeremy, I did pretty well and made $2 over lunch money. So I was able to kind of allow this whole situation to continue to marinate and develop, and wait for the opportune time to reconnect with my co-founding member, Michael Wright, Wonder Mike. And in 2005, we did that. We put this version of our group together, and with the help of some good legal assistance and, good people around us, we were able to create and develop the Sugar Hill Gang that we were entitled to and that we were always looking to be a part of. And we're continuing 12 years now into it, international tours and Jimmy Fallon appearances. And, we're global. I'm actually heading off to Switzerland Friday, actually. And so things have been really well. We've been doing really well. But like I said, we've seen it all. Again, before us, there was no real knowledge. So we had to learn. We had to earn as we learned, if you will. And we did that. And we're very proud to be who we are, which is, the beginning of this thing that is now a juggernaut. And there's nowhere on the planet Earth you're not gonna know about rap music. It's in movies, it's in commercials, it's in the magazines, it's everywhere. And we're very thankful to be a part of it. So that's the long and the short of it, really.
And I also want to talk about now. 40 years is a long time. 1979 to when we're going to be celebrating this is 2019. Quite a bit has changed in hip hop, in anything, in vegetarianism, in politics, in fashion, anything you want to talk about. Now, what's interesting to me and what I've seen recently, Jeremy and I talked about it a little bit, is the sit down you got to do with a certain member of a certain local music band called Trouble Funk.
Oh, yeah. Talking about with Big Tony.
Tell us a little bit about that and about y'all's discussion, because that must have been quite interesting. I know we're going to get to see more of it down the line.
Yes.
But just kind of what that was like. And it's the two meetings of two very influential people from not too different. I mean, rap and go or hip hop and go-go aren't, drastically different, but they're pretty different.
Yes.
And y'all hadn't really been familiar. So kind of tell me about that meeting and how that went and what that was like.
Well, Jeremy is actually really the bring together of the whole situation.
Fish luncheon.
Yeah. And Big Tony was on Sugar Hill Records, and that's where I was first introduced to him. My first experience with Go-Go was at the Howard Theater in the early 80s.
OG Howard Theater.
Yes, the OG Howard Theater before they redid it. We came down to do a show. We were hot as fish grease. I couldn't walk the streets, and I thought I was pretty bad. And came down here to D.C. and, this group, Rare Essence, got on stage, and they treated me like a redhead stepchild. The girls weren't giving me the attention that I was used to. Everybody was, and the music, they just kept playing the beat, over and over. I was like, what is this? So that was my first introduction to go-go. Found out that it was a DC, a DMV thing. And not too long after that, Trouble Funk came to Sugar Hill Records. They recorded a great record, dropped the bomb. And then we had a thing called a Sugar Hill Review, where Grandmaster Flash, Funky 4+1 More, Sequence, and Trouble Funk, and of course Sugar Hill, we headlined. We did that tour internationally. But moving on, I hadn't seen Big Tony in years. And Jeremy and I started talking about the Hip Hop Museum and doing a concert to launch it. And then we came up with the cool idea of bringing go-go music with hip hop, because it's here in the DC area. So we got the greatest hip hop museum in the world. We got the greatest go-go band to ever do go-go, and then we got the quintessential hip hop group that brought this thing to the world. And we're doing what we call a super merger, and that was what our meeting was all about. And it was very cool to see Big Tony, because, like I said, I hadn't seen him for a long time, and he brought back some really cool memories.
Nice. So, and Jeremy, let's go back to kind of the museum and what y'all have going on. Now, we know that there's going to be those two performers. What else can people expect to see as far as who we're going to be able to hear on performing and coming to the event? And, what can attendees expect to see, hear, listen, and experience?
Yeah, sure. So I actually have a great new announcement to make, and Master G hasn't even heard this yet.
Oh, boy.
So we have an
see him, he's
interesting...
got something different.
Yeah, no. The show keeps getting bigger every time I open my phone, really. Okay, so, of course, it's the 40th anniversary of Rapper's Delight. And some people know, some people don't know about the Grandmaster Caz, controversy.
Of course.
Grandmaster Caz will be there.
Yes.
Melly Mel will be there. Trouble Funk will be there.
Yes.
And here's the new piece of news that I just got in yesterday. Founder and creator of the Source magazine, Dave Mays, will be turning 50 on the 24th. He's also a good friend of mine.
Wow.
And he has agreed to display issue number 1 of the Source magazine.
Is that right?
Which is valued at over $250,000.
I would
Holy
imagine
moly.
so.
Yes. So in addition to an exact replica of the Death Row Records electric chair, which Master G's seen, in addition to Dave Mays's issue number 1 of the Source magazine, which basically, I don't know if any other copies exist, actually. That's also part of the value. In addition to that, we will have the entire collection on display. And we're talking about, custom pieces of memorabilia and rare, vintage gems of hip-hop history from, Eminem. There's a brick from Eminem's childhood home in our collection. We have
Cool.
the original leather vest that Grandmaster Caz wore in Wild Style, signed by Grandmaster Caz. We have a leather staff jacket from Yo MTV Raps, signed by Fab Five Freddy. And there's just so many interesting, great pieces of memorabilia. But the new edition of Dave Mays really just culminates just more of this history, because a lot of the stuff that's happening that night has never happened before. So, or at least hasn't happened in many years.
It's a thing that needed to be. That's what I call this.
Yeah. It's very cathartic.
Yes.
Like, I was cheesing when Master G was describing, seeing Big Tony for the first time in all these years in the Sugar Hill Review. I'm just over here just totally blessed and freaked out that I'm even a part of this.
But you're the catalyst of this thing. You're the one that brought the idea to me.
It's wild, but it's, history coming full circle, and I think we'll make a big mark.
I think so too.
In the scene.
I think so too. And it needed to be done.
So please, everyone, come out. January
come hang
18th.
out.
Go get your tickets. We're almost sold out.
Yeah,
on,
for sure. And you guys, you mentioned, Jeremy, that there's going to be a 3-year residency here. Is this act going to go on the road maybe after that by any chance?
Man, you are so... Karin knows her stuff, man.
She's done.
I told you I love to ask questions.
Right.
No, she gets this, right?
She
So that's
definitely
exactly
sees it.
why Dave Mays might be involved.
Yes.
Okay.
So, we are envisioning,
Gotcha.
doing pop-ups in Atlanta, in LA,
Yeah.
in Houston,
Yeah.
in Detroit, in all the big hip-hop cities, because we think this is something that needs to be shared, and then hopefully internationally. So while maybe one day it'll be nice to have a $10-20 million building that's all our own and 24/7, we think that in its infancy, in the first few years, we got to tour this.
Absolutely.
With performances.
No question.
Yes.
This is so important. If you think about every other aspect of music, rock and roll, blues, jazz, folk,
They all have this.
they have this.
Yeah.
We're the only form of music that does not have its own place. We have a piece, like in Cleveland, in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, there's a section.
Right.
At the Black History Museum, there's
a
a section, but
right.
there's not a building dedicated to one of the biggest forms of music to ever come out in the last 40 years.
Currently the biggest form of
Well,
music
I didn't
in the
want to
world.
go that way because
Currently
I'm
the
personally
biggest.
I don't want
involved.
to brag.
Just
I
say.
didn't want to just say
Just
it
say.
is, but
They sell Ritz crackers using hip hop these days. I mean, everything.
it's better for somebody else to say it than that's what my mother said.
That's very. It's
That's what my mother says.
my mama said.
Yes.
Very interesting. You guys kind of brought that up. Not only the African American Museum, the hip hop section of that museum is probably one of my favorite parts. It's the whole entire museum is mind blowing, but
Very
that's
true.
a great section. And the fact that
And we made it.
Yeah, there you go.
We did make it.
And then the fact that Jeremy brought up people are selling Ritz crackers using hip hop today.
Yes.
We've all seen it grow. Granted, I've only been around for a certain amount of time. Everybody's only knows what they know. How have you guys both, especially you, Master G, what's your interpretation of hip hop as it's grown over the years? Kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes.
What have you seen change in a positive way? What have you seen kind of you could have done without? And maybe some insight on it from a perspective of coming up from the very beginning and seeing how it is now, how commercial it is, everything that kind of is involved with it.
Right. And that's the thing. That's one of the blessings that I have because I am the beginning of this, art form. I have the fortunate situation to have seen it where most people, will never know. I was there when, like I said, an R&B group didn't even want to let us perform because they didn't think what we were doing was real art. So we've gone from that situation to the era, I call it the Hammer era, where corporate America, Run DMC, Hammer, corporate America decided because they started looking at the numbers, and that's the way corporate America works, okay? When I first started performing, we attempted to put together a Coca-Cola commercial, Cocacola. Coca-Cola is what it's called, the drink that will quench your thirst in the spring, summer, winter, and fall. Now, that was the first line. And it goes on. We put that together and sent that to Coca-Cola. They turned us down flat. There was no response, no. They turned us down flat.
Now you can't see a Pepsi ad without it.
I was gonna say, and now look what it's at.
So understand my reality for this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being in the studio, and recording that commercial. And we're going to send this to Coke, and we were all excited about it because the record was the biggest
hugest
record
thing in the world. Yeah.
1979, Rappers
Yeah.
Delight was the biggest record on the planet,
Yeah.
period. No question. The Grammys, they gave us no nod, no group of the year, new group, nothing. To this day, I've never been nominated. The only thing we do have is we're in the Grammy Hall of Fame, but we were never nominated. We've never won a Grammy. Now you look, go into the Hammer era. Now you got the corporate America. Pepsi got involved. And then all of a sudden, things started changing. Now the Grammys want to get involved, et cetera, on. And then the really bad thing was it became very competitive on the East and the West Coast. A lot of things started becoming misconstrued, and it really was a lot to do with the commercial aspect of it. A lot of that stuff that was going on, it really wasn't street driven. It was business driven. And that was the really unfortunate thing. So something that I did for meditation, relief, and, things that I wanted to happen and wrote about things that I thought about happening, it became now I want to do something bad to you, and I want to do something bad as a result of what you've done to me. So that was a real downside of it. the reality of it is, when we first started making records, I'm a middle class kid from the New York metropolitan area. So I talked about going out on a date. That's what I wanted to do. My name is known all over the world by all the foxy ladies and the pretty girls. That was wishful thinking.
Nothing has changed, Master G.
Oh no, now it's a different story. But that was wishful thinking. At 17 years old, the best I could do was get a date for the dance at the high school. You know what I mean? That's what I was doing. So once it started going into different areas, like when Mel and them started coming out, so they were coming from the Bronx, from the real ghetto, and then it got to California, and NWA and Ice Cube and all them, they were coming from a really hard situation. So it's always been a form of interpretation, and that's when you started seeing it go into political content and the hard driven situations. Now, with all that being said, the great thing about it is that in the inner city and, just life in general, if you didn't go to school and get an education, you could be a actor, you could be an athlete, or you could be a comedian. Those were the things that people from poverty-stricken situations aspired to be, right? And then rap music came out. It became the fourth option, because now if I can't act and I can't play a sport and I can't tell jokes, but I can put rhymes together, now I have an opportunity to still win. Amen. So that to me is one of the greatest things that I can say that I'm connected to be able to have a situation where maybe that guy, because I'm going to tell you, I travel all over the world. I'm gone 7, 8, 9 months out of the year, maybe probably more. And I get, there's so many people that come up to me and say, if it wasn't for rap music, I probably would be dead. If it wasn't for rap music, I would be in prison. If it wasn't for rap music, so
I'm one of those people.
Well, there you go. And so that I call it the fourth option. So therein lies what I think.
Nice
about it.
That's awesome. And that's such a true point. And hopefully that changes again and there's a fifth option. But for now, the fourth option is looking pretty nice.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so Jeremy, we're going to go back to you as we kind of wrap this up, and let's give people all the details about how they can actually attend the event and be part of this historic.
Oh yeah, sure.
Event.
There's sadly only one way. Go to hhmdc.eventbrite.com. So that stands for Hip Hop Museum DC. So again, hhmdc.eventbrite.com. Right there, you'll be able to purchase your tickets. We still have some general admission tickets left, but they're going to go really quickly because we haven't announced the Dave Mays thing. Well, I guess I just did.
Yes.
But now
to
everybody...
a certain degree, yes.
So much for keeping that under wraps.
Yes.
So now that everybody knows Dave Mays' 50th birthday, founder and creator of The Source magazine, 40th anniversary of Rapper's Delight with Sugar Hill Gang, Grandmaster Caz, Melly Mel, and Trouble Funk, January 18th, 2019. This also makes a great Christmas present.
Well, I have to tell you, it's actually 9 days to the day after my birthday.
So we got more
celebrating.
So it's two 50-year-old birthdays.
Yeah, no, mine is a little older. I'm a little older.
We're pretending.
No, we're not going to tell anybody that. Don't worry,
yes,
I'll
we
edit
are.
that part out.
I'm proud of my age.
Actually, you should
Only
be.
because you
Bless
got
your heart.
muscles on muscles.
Yeah, I told Jeremy I'm too young to be old and too old to be young,
Hey.
so I envy that.
Come on now.
That's a bumper sticker.
I'm getting better with time. I still got rhymes.
You are.
I think I'm skipping a generation. Maybe I'll get better when I'm older.
Yeah, you're doing great.
Well, guys, I want to thank you both so much. This was a lot of fun and very informative. I appreciate y'all coming in, sharing this information, the stories, the knowledge, the secrets that are going to be happening, and hopefully everybody out there will be joining us on the 18th.
Yes, please come out.
Thanks.